6 days before the Passover, Jesus returned once more to Bethany, the village where Lazarus had been raised from the dead. This place was no longer ordinary. Death had been overturned there. Hope had taken root. People gathered not only to see Jesus, but to see Lazarus, the man who had once lain in a tomb and now sat at a table, alive. Because of him, many believed in Jesus, and because of that belief, the chief priests grew fearful. Instead of rejoicing in life, they plotted more death, even planning to kill Lazarus because his very existence pointed to the truth they refused to accept. A dinner was prepared in Jesus' honor. Martha served the meal, quietly faithful as always, and Lazarus reclined at the table with Jesus, living testimony beside him. Then Mary came forward with a jar of pure nard, a perfume so expensive it was worth a full year's wages. Without a word, she poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped them with her hair. The fragrance filled the entire house. This was worship poured out without restraint. Mary understood something others did not, that Jesus was worthy of everything, even what felt costly or unreasonable. Judas Iscariot objected, speaking as if he cared for the poor, but Scripture reveals his heart. He was a thief, more concerned with money than truth. Jesus defended Mary, saying she had kept this perfume for the day of his burial. In that moment, worship and betrayal stood side by side. Love and hypocrisy shared the same room, and already the cross was being prepared. The next day, great crowds filled Jerusalem for the Passover. When they heard Jesus was coming, they took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." They celebrated him as king, but their understanding was shallow. They expected power, victory, and freedom from Rome. But Jesus entered the city riding on a young donkey, fulfilling the words of the prophet Zechariah, a king of humility and peace, not violence or pride. At the time, his disciples did not fully understand these things. Only later, after Jesus was glorified, did they realize the Scriptures had been fulfilled. The crowd continued to testify about Lazarus, spreading the story of resurrection everywhere. And because of this, the Pharisees said to one another, "Look how the whole world has gone after him." Fear was growing, not fear of God, but fear of losing control. Among those who came to worship were Greeks, outsiders who asked to see Jesus. When Jesus heard this, he knew the moment had arrived. He said, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." But he immediately explained that glory would come through death. He spoke of a grain of wheat falling into the ground and dying, so that it could produce many seeds. He was revealing a kingdom built not on self-preservation, but on sacrifice. Jesus admitted that his soul was troubled. He did not hide his humanity, yet he prayed, "Father, glorify your name." And a voice came from heaven saying, "I have glorified it and will glorify it again." Some heard thunder, others thought an angel had spoken. But Jesus said the voice was not for him. It was for them. This was God's final public confirmation before the cross. Jesus declared that the ruler of this world would be driven out, and that when he was lifted up from the earth, he would draw all people to himself. John explains that Jesus was speaking about the kind of death he would die. The crowd questioned him. Confused, they believed the Messiah would remain forever. How could he speak of death? Jesus warned them gently but urgently to walk in the light while they still had it, because darkness was coming. Then John pauses the story and explains something deeply important. Despite all the miracles Jesus performed, many still did not believe, and this fulfilled the words of the prophet Isaiah. Lord, who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Isaiah 53:1. John goes further and quotes Isaiah again. He has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, so they can neither see with their eyes, nor understand with their hearts, nor turn, and I would heal them. Isaiah 6:10. Isaiah had seen Jesus' glory long before Jesus walked the earth, and he spoke of him. This teaches us a sobering truth. Rejection of Jesus is not always due to lack of evidence, but hardness of heart. Light was standing before them, and still they chose darkness. Yet even then some leaders believed in Jesus, but they kept it secret. They were afraid of being put out of the synagogue. John tells us something striking. They loved human praise more than praise from God. Faith hidden out of fear is still a form of bondage. Finally, Jesus cried out with urgency, offering one last public invitation. He declared that whoever believes in him believes in the one who sent him. He said he came as light into the world, so that whoever believes in him would not remain in darkness. He made it clear that his purpose was not condemnation, but salvation. Yet he warned that rejecting his words would have consequences, because truth always demands a response. What John chapter 12 teaches us. John chapter 12 teaches us that light has come, but not all will choose to see. It teaches us that true worship is costly, and shallow praise fades when sacrifice appears. It shows us that Jesus is King, but his throne is a cross. And it warns us that knowing Scripture is not the same as surrendering to truth. Isaiah's words remind us that prophecy is fulfilled not only in miracles, but in human response, belief or rejection. This chapter stands at the edge of history. From here on, Jesus no longer teaches the crowds publicly. The light has been offered. The decision has been made. The path now leads to the cross.